Welcome back, crew. It is time for January 2025 to be set up in my Archer and Olive B5 journal. So for those of you who are new, I don't start a brand new notebook at the beginning of the year. Especially when I have half of a notebook left. That's just really wasteful to me. I am a homesteader. I make everything count where I can. However, on this particular day of Monday, December 16th, I am procrastinating. I need to do laundry, I need to sweep the floors, I need to start getting the house cleaned up for this upcoming holiday season. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do any of it. So what am I doing? I'm doing my B5 bullet journal setup with you guys, and I'm working on my Bleep You I'm Reading shawl. This thing is basically going to be a blanket. It's a blall. Or is it a shawlet? Anyways. This particular paper pack that you guys are going to see me using a lot of for January is a Van Gogh themed one, obviously, judging by his picture right there. This particular paper pack was not available on Amazon when I went to go for the link. It was sold out at the time of this video being uploaded. So, I really enjoyed this theme. Every time I'm in my bullet journal, I always go and look at January for a couple minutes because it's just a warm colored theme. And I don't normally work with like these golden oranges, these dark yellows in my bullet journal or in any context really. But with January being like the first full month of winter, it kind of made sense to have such a warm and cozy feeling theme for me. This particular blackout paper is from my first long-terms collection journal, which is over there behind me. You guys can't really see it because I'm down here in the corner. The black paper for me felt like it complemented the warm oranges really well. There were probably those of you who disagree with me on that, but that's fine. This is my bullet journal, not yours. So I looked out into having the right colors of washi tape, the right color stickers and whatnot to go with all of this, a lot of the papers and a lot of the themes that are in there. Now, my calendar page took me roughly 15 minutes to do. The entire setup actually took me almost 2 hours to do because I was taking my time. I was being very deliberate with all of my decorating choices. I was trying to make sure that every time I open my bullet journal in January, it's just going to be cozy, it's going to be warm. I'm going to be very happy with using these spreads. But the number of spreads that I have in my monthly section has actually almost completely doubled. I'll explain those when we get to them. And also, only the first 2 days of January are going to be in this video because the rest of the days of January, I was decorating a lot. So my days in January are actually taking up half of a B5 page. But a large part of that is because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do a cutesy weekly page on 2 pages. And it's just kind of like, no, not this time. Not this time. So we are going to probably have several time jumps just due to the fact that that's how it ended up working out. And my cover page for January, I love my cover page. Well, technically it is a cover page. My calendars act as cover pages. That little scooped pale thing there is a bone file or a bone folder. That was actually part of a very basic notebook slash bookbinding kit that I bought off of Amazon like a couple of years ago. No, actually, I bought it back all the way back in 2020. And I use that for making sure that my stickers are sticking more frequently than when I have used it for actual putting together of notebooks and whatnot. So, and for those of you who are curious about everything that I track on my calendar page, I keep track of my egg count for my chickens. There's a section for appointments, and then there is a section for anything that is like really important in January, as in like, oh, hey, husband, renew the bike insurance or renew the car insurance, or something to that extent. Now, I didn't use a lot of those quotes because like there were 2 pages of quotes. I did use the little stickers that were on it, but I don't use a lot of quotes in my stuff. But this one particular bit from a Shakespeare sonnet of "Shall I compare you to a summer's day? Thou art far more lovely and temperate," I think is the line. My bullet journal is sitting right behind me. I could just grab it, but no, not today. Now I don't use, also there's dot stickers, and I don't usually use dot stickers, so that's okay. I'm double checking to see when my full moons are and my new moons, because keeping track of those cycles is actually kind of important for me, but they are not an emphasis to the extent that I share them frequently with friends or family. So this particular section here, like I just said, I had to go back and double check to make sure I had the right clip. This is my weather tracker. To the extent that I keep track of the weather, it's usually just a low in the morning and the day's hot. And I keep track of what my skies look like. Was it cloudy? Was it hazy? Was it cloudy in the morning and it cleared off during the day? Usually things to that extent. And this particular blue color that I'm using from Sakura Jelly Roll really felt like the right color to use. There are multiple pieces that Van Gogh did of very blue irises, and this particular blue was what I felt like matched that blue in the iris paintings the best. I do have a couple of darker blues, but the darker blues were almost too dark, if that makes sense. At this point, I'm just going to put a little bit of washi tape, this neutral tan washi tape, down as a contrast background. And from there, my weather tracker is done. The weather tracker almost always has its own page. I almost never create it with any other spreads, just because it's a pretty big spread / tracker. And when I'm in an A5, the weather tracker page almost never has decoration. It almost never has decoration. Almost never. And that's just how it ends up going. There are a few minor adjustments that I might make when I move into my next bullet journal, which I still have not decided on the size of yet. I have not decided if I'm going to stay in a B5. I've got 3 more B5s that I can choose from, or if I'm going to move back into an A5, because I have a lot of A5s. Or I might get really crazy and bullet journal for a couple of months in an A6, the pocket size. I did get the Archer and Olive fall box, which I absolutely loved. The dark, they call it dark academia. I'm from the generation that just called that stuff goth. For those of you who are dark academia fans, your older goth brothers and sisters are very proud of you. You have rediscovered class. I used to be a part of the goth scene a little bit when I was younger, but out here in the high Sonoran Desert, black is a bad idea. You avoid black in the summertime, because if you don't, you're going to melt. Just right here, I'm double checking my size chart, because I have a sizing grid. I usually put it on the very, 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 very last page. I have a grid spacing guide. So that's what I'm doing here. Oh, I didn't realize I had shaken the light that much. Just these two spreads here are two very, very simple spreads. The bottom is Dave's list. Dave is my husband. And for the most part, when it comes to what gets written down on this list is reminders for him, their important things, their appointments. The appointments are more for my sake, so that I can remember when he's going to need to go into town, and we can plan errand runs around that, because the closest decent town with things that we need is an hour away, so we tend to batch our errands when we do trips. And then the top spread is just my hobbies and focus. This is where I write down my crochet projects that I may not have finished, crochet and knitting projects that I may not have finished the month before. It's where I write down my videos for the YouTube channel here. Every now and again, I feel like I'm forgetting a hobby, but the main ones that go into here are my crocheting, my sewing, sometimes my sewing, my knitting, and my YouTube videos. And like I said, I always feel like I'm forgetting a hobby. My gardening is not a hobby, I can tell you guys that. Gardening is very much a part of a homesteader's lifestyle. And for me, my garden is not a hobby. It is a way of life. It is a part of my way of life. So it does not go in the hobbies list. However, this year I did, and starting in January, I do have a separate half-page little dashboard for the garden. I noticed in 2024 when I included the garden in my everyday or this needs to be done this week, I would forget about it and it would just get pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. And it was like, all right, so the best way to deal with this is to give it its own space in my monthly setup. And that's what I did. But I don't know how well it's going to work out just yet. And due to that, it may or may not be carried over past January, but we'll see. Okay, now we are into the next page. The next spread that is not a new spread, just like the prior three. The weather tracker, Dave's list, and my hobbies and focus are all three normal spreads that I have in my bullet journal. This particular spread is my leftovers tracker, and it is also my meal ideas tracker. I had to add the meal ideas tracker because I get so many ideas. And the fact that I have 6 hens that come summertime all lay every single day. So keeping track of meal ideas, especially for egg-heavy dishes, kind of important. To the extent that I have quite a few meals and recipes bookmarked in quite a few places. One of our favorite breakfasts. One of our favorite morning time meals is shakshuka. My husband introduced me to it not long after he and I got together, and I absolutely love shakshuka. It is such an easy meal to make. Not only if you want to make it vegetarian, easy to do. If you want to make it nice and meat rich, also very easy to do. The original recipe starts out with, I think, ground lamb, but I have used ground beef and I have used ground chicken in shakshuka before, and both have been equally good. But the main things are the spicy tomato sauce, spicy tomatoes that are the base, and the eggs cracked into that tomato sauce and covered to cook and almost basically poach in it. Shakshuka is a great way to use up some types of vegetables. I tend to really enjoy throwing spinach and other green leafies into shakshuka. So if you guys haven't tried shakshuka yet and you love to cook, you are missing out. And here's a quick look at what my November ended up looking like. I completely forgot to put this particular tracker into my December. And I didn't notice it until like a week into December, and I realized, oh, I didn't record how many hours I slept that night. I completely forgot my sleep tracker. So you will note, compared to prior sleep trackers where it was just the day and I kept track of how many hours I slept, I've changed up how my sleep tracker is looking. From left to right, you have the earliest I have ever gone to bed and the latest I have ever slept in. And then we've got our days going down the side. And what I'm going to be doing in January as a change of pace with my sleep tracker is actually keeping track a little bit more accurately about when I go to bed, when I fall asleep, and various times in the night when I wake up for a period of time. It's actually pretty common for me to wake up at night at a random time for reasons I can't discern, and I'm curious if there's a pattern between that time. Now, I used to deal with insomnia. When I say I used to deal with insomnia, I mean, if I'm not careful, I can very easily slip back into it. A lot of my insomnia issues I have dealt with through habit and through diet. Mostly for the simple fact of, a lot of it also has to do with, once I reach a certain point at night, my husband has permission to come in and go, turn it off and come to bed. Mostly because I've asked him to do that. Because I don't like laying awake at night and here comes 6 o'clock and then I finally fall asleep and I sleep until 10. And that's the only sleep I was getting for a very long time, was between 6:30 and 10. So that had to change. But I'm curious with this new sleep tracker, the way I have it set up, if there ends up being a pattern between the times that I wake up at night, and if there's a pattern between night to night about that wake up time. Plus it'll give me a little bit more accurate of a view about when I have been asleep. So, and you'll notice that that is a half-page vertical on the left-hand side of this page. On the right-hand side of this page is one of my new spreads. You guys can blame Joshi Curran for this one. She was talking about, in one of her gorgeous videos, one of her massive ideas videos, reading journal stuff. And she made mention of a reading retreat day. I sent the idea, all I texted my husband was, reading retreat day? And his response was, yes, what snacks am I picking up? I love that, man. So now, as a kind of an experimental spread, I have as a half page a reading retreat day. And for that particular day, I'm keeping track of the snacks that we might want, the date we're going to have it on, and the books. I'm going to give myself like 5 or 6 to choose from that I'm going to be focusing on that day. And then a reading retreat day report, will be something that I will be putting into my reading journal to just kind of as a reflection of, hey, to myself of what worked about that day, what needs adjusted, and just, you know, bits and pieces of fun things. Bits and pieces of fun things? It's a Monday. It's Monday. Okay, it is Monday. And here you can see I'm checking things off on a master spread list. I was worried I was going to forget one again, and so I made myself a checklist. Because I was like, I'm not forgetting a spread this month. It is not going to happen. Oh, the focus issues. One of these bloody days. For those of you trying to remember, I have a shawl that I'm working on. Just because I cannot stand holding still all that much. So when I am doing editing like this, if it was just me recording like the voiceover using the voice recorder that I have on the phone, I would probably still be sitting here doing this. So, but I'm so small down here in the corner that it honestly doesn't matter if you guys can see if I'm looking at you in the camera or not. So I'm just here providing commentary in a what feels to me less boring way than speaking just into a microphone. Now, this is my monthly list. Previously, my monthly list, tidy list, was its own little thing, and there were 3 things on it on my habit tracker page. My monthly tidy list has actually expanded by 3 things because I noticed that these were 3 things that desperately needed attention. So outside of dusting, washing water bowls, and washing rugs, cleaning off of side tables, ottomans, and coffee tables got added to the monthly list. Mostly because usually by the end of, like, if you're trying to do it weekly, that can get a little overwhelming for me because my executive dysfunction has a tendency of just being an absolute... Yeah, you'll see me doing this on the stickers. That's because they were kind of printed a little bit weird, or cut a little bit weird, so they've got a little bit of the color from up top. That one completely tore on me. So I'm just filling in this little corner right here, trying to be pretty, trying to make it look like really nice. Now this next one is new. This is a new spread. This is the weekly reset checklist, and this is something that I actually started doing back in October. And I'm very glad that I did. The weekly reset checklist has been something I wish I started doing sooner. It's basically a Sunday is me day. Sunday is my day. Unless it is absolutely important, like dumping the compost, which goes to the chickens anymore. But it's that day where I sit down and I look and I go, okay, I need to do this, this, and this, and this. Because these are things that will slip by the wayside. Like wiping down and cleaning the stovetop. I am so bad at that, you guys. I'm so bad at that. I'm hoping that if I incorporate it into a Sunday reset checklist where I'm giving myself a clean kitchen for the most part, that way come Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm not stressed out over how dirty it is, because Mondays have enough stress as it is. Today being a perfect example of that. So on this particular checklist, for those of you who may not be able to read my handwriting, is a shower or a long hot bath, wash my hair if it's been a week, take care of my nails, afternoon tea, meal plan. Sunday working has to do with my pagan side. Change the sheets. Dump compost, wipe and clean the stovetop, and a house walkthrough. Just to see if there's, not just to see if, there's always at least something that I have completely forgotten. It has just gone out of my mind. And at that point, it's kind of one of those, all right, well, when's the next time I can get to this? So the house walkthrough is so that I can look at what hasn't been done, that I didn't get to, that I can put underneath of a work on this for 5-10 minutes in my days. I don't remember if I drew my lines between my Sundays there, or if I did that later. I think I did that later. Yep, I did that later. This next full page spread almost is another one of the new spreads. This is my diet tracker. I turn 40 next year. 40. Yeah, I it's a little hard for me to believe as well, but I am. And I'm also slipping into premenopause, and I probably have been in premenopause for the last 3 or 4 years. And it occurred to me that I should be keeping track of my diet a whole lot more than what I kind of already have been through my meal planning. Because as you get older, your body changes, and food that you used to be able to tolerate, your body decides to go, nope, you don't get to enjoy that anymore. The number of my older female friends that cannot enjoy anything from the Nightshade family now. I hope I don't develop that, because I really like tomatoes. I like tomatoes. I'm one of those girls who grew up in a family where we had a garden, and it was not uncommon for my dad to go walking out to the garden with a salt shaker in his pocket and grab tomatoes and just That's how it was. And tomato and mayo sandwiches, which are meant to be made with whatever tomato you have on hand, but you need to make sure that it is a very ripe tomato. Otherwise, it's not going to complement your mayo at all. I do recommend that if you want to kick it up a little bit of a notch, toast your bread a little bit so it's got a slight crunch to it, and be sure to put a little bit of salt on your tomatoes. If you've never had a mayo and tomato sandwich, it's okay. It's a very particular lifestyle kind of snack. It's not really, I wouldn't call it a regional thing, and I would not call it class related at all. It's more a type of lifestyle. So, if you do decide to try it, minimal mayo. Just enough to turn the bread white. You still want to see the bread through the mayo layer. At least that's how I like it. There are some people out there who are like, I don't want to see the bread, and it's a layer of mayonnaise that is so thick. But tomatoes are juicy, so the mayo tends to kind of run off with the tomato juice. That's why you don't want to use a lot of mayo. Now, for those of you who are curious as to what it is I'm tracking in the diet tracker, we have liquids, which are coffee, tea, soda, and water plus. The water plus is for the 0 calorie drink packets that I have, which I discovered, which make it very easy to help me and my husband stay hydrated during the summertime, because water gets boring very quickly. Then we've got proteins: beef, chicken, fish, pork, eggs, dairy. I have fruit, veggies, wheat, corn, oats, and rice. Chocolate or candy. I have missed dishes for miscellaneous that may or may not fall underneath of other things, because there's a lot of food out there that I'm not really entirely certain as to what to put it under. And then alcohol. If I have an alcoholic drink that day, I will mark it. And you can see here that I'm doing a lot of decorating on this particular page. I've actually got the bullet journal open in front of me because I went ahead and grabbed it. I very much like the choices that I made with my color palette, and I am very appreciative of the time and effort that a lot of people put into putting together paper packs and whatnot. I had no idea what I was going to do for a January theme, and then I saw this pack and I was just like, I have to have this. I have to have this. And I will make no apologies for having this. And here I'm checking off the diet tracker. The next page is going to have 3. These next set of pages have 3. Did I just give away that I was a PBS kid in one go? I think I did. It has 3 new spreads. The first of the spreads I mentioned earlier in this video, and that is my garden goals spread. The garden goals is more like I said, it's to help me remember, hey, I want to do this in the garden, or I want to do this, which will help the garden in the future, but it's kind of a multi-day project and it needs an increment done here and an increment done here and an increment done here. Because on a homestead, there are a multitude of projects that have 10-minute foundation blocks to the project that, if you break them up over a couple of different days or a couple of different weeks, keeps the project from becoming far too overwhelming. Although what I start in this part is actually my ovarian rebellion checklist, which I really should have had one of these years ago. So this is so that I've got this information in my everyday bullet journal. I'm always looking at it. I have a traveler's notebook set up specifically for keeping track of my cycle. And the ovarian rebellion checklist is the date that is expected on, when I'm going to increase my water and protein, a long hot shower, because usually about halfway through the first day or the second day, I feel disgusting, but I do not have the energy to stand in a shower. So the goal is on the just before it starts or the day before it starts, I get in a nice scrub a layer of skin off shower. I'm also going to be keeping track of my cravings because they always vary from month to month. And the main things that I found myself dealing with, whether it was really horrible mood swings, no energy, my mental mood was just kind of one of those, everybody leave me the heck alone. I am playing Minecraft and placing blocks for the next 8 hours. If it is not a chore, do not bother me. Things like that. Now I'm working on the garden goals. And that particular page I kept very simple just because they are very new and I didn't know how much space I was going to need. On to the next page here, which is a full page spread, which it can be a full page spread in a B5. If I move into an A5 come March or April, I may not be able to fit this spread on one page. And if I do, it will be because there is no decoration. Doubtful though. I am trying out on this particular page for January a 1 line a day spread. Now, I've never done a spread like this before. I've never done anything like a 1 line a day before. And I'm honestly curious about how it's gonna turn out. I'm honestly not sure, because like I said, I've never done this before. And I'm very curious to see if I carry it over. This is a non-alcoholic beer, by the way. I need to drink break. So if I occasionally am looking outside, it's because my orange and white cat Izzy, who you guys have seen before, decided earlier this month to just be an absolute asshole to both of the other cats. And it caused a lot of friction in the house. I actually had to lock Izzy up in the laundry room at night for a few nights. And right now the weather is absolutely gorgeous in the daytime. So she spends more time outside than the others do. And I'm just making sure that if I see her in the front yard, she's not in trouble. She's actually probably curled up asleep on the bench on the front porch. But yeah, that has been, that was definitely a stressor over the weekend of the 14th and the 15th that I did not need. But she has calmed down and or is getting enough outside stimulation that the idea of attacking the other two cats just isn't on her radar, thankfully. This orange barred tape, or whatever you want to call it, ended up being just the perfect complement. I absolutely am so happy that I had it. You can see here I'm just playing around with the decoration and just trying to decide what I want to do. Now, you probably can't see it all that well up in the far right-hand corner. There's a little black smudge there. That's actually my tablet. I had something playing on it while I was decorating this bullet journal spread, which is why you are not hearing anything of what is going on in the background. You guys will probably almost never hear anything in the background, just because a lot of times I'm listening to content that I don't need YouTube going as a copyright strike. No, thank you. I don't want a copyright strike. So, I had one at one point on a video that I had to remind YouTube was copyright-free music. So, that was interesting. Now, this particular spread right here is a new spread as well. There's going to be two on this page. You can see I'm thinking here, doing so much thinking. This particular page is containing my homestead brain dump, which the homestead brain dump, by the title of it, should be fairly self-evident, but if not, it is a page that I basically write down ideas for the homestead and things that I need to get to. Like, say I run out of chicken pellet food. Well, I'm going to write down the date that I ran it out of it on, and then I'm going to compare it to the next time I have to buy it. That way I know how much to tell my husband to buy. Or we need to fix such and such part for the main roost. We need to, XYZ. And then the second spread, well, it's not really a spread. The paper pack came with 2 envelopes. So I decided that I was going to put this next thing that I'm doing, which is a poetry writing sprint. Poetry writing sprint prompt list. And it's just a piece of paper folded up, tucked into it. I have since filming this filled in that list, and it's just on a piece of paper from a journal, from a notebook that I did not enjoy using, but I used it for as far as I could tolerate it, and then I pulled a few pages out, and that particular notebook is sitting in the storage bin. It's almost like onion paper, but for the month of January, I'm going to be attempting poetry/writing sprints, just as a means of giving myself another creative outlet. And that's just kind of important to me because it kind of felt like I lost a bit of my creativity due to the amount of grieving I ended up doing over this past year from losing friends and family who lost their physical and mental health battles. And creativity is a form of therapy for a lot of people. Creativity is a way to grieve. It's a way to explore emotions, and I am not very good at emotioning. My friends who know me very, very well can tell you that at least once a year I'm asking the question of, how does one emotion? What is this? My friends are incredibly tolerant of my growing experiences. So, the number of like vintage style stickers for labels and whatnot has exploded on so many different sites. My preference and go-to is Amazon because I can get the big packs of like 60 pieces each section, and there's like 5 or 6 of these in the big packs that I can get on Amazon. Whereas when I see the single packs on some of these other sites, they're the same cost for the single pack of 60 versus the 6 packs of 60 on Amazon. It's the same price. So I'm just like, I'm gonna go with what is a better use of my money. And here we have a return of a classic layout for me when it comes to my everyday things that I track. And for those of you who are new and have stuck with me this long, I tend to track my self-care and personal things, like taking showers and reading. I keep track of house chores, which for the month of January is dishes, trash, and cleaning the litter box. And then outside chores are feeding the chickens, rotating the chicken feed, and then working on the yard. Because in January, the highs at the most are going to be about 76. And it is the best time of year to be outside when you live in Arizona. It's the best time of year. Although it's still getting cold at night. We're still dropping into the upper 20s and lower 30s at night. And once the sun goes down, the hoodies come back out, the beanies go back on. And as you can see, just a really simple tracker. For those of you who have been looking for a more minimalist way of doing your habit trackers instead of the mini calendars, here you go. I have done mini calendars. I've done mini calendars, I think, almost all the entire time I've been in the B5, except for, no, I take that back. It wasn't a mini calendar in November, and then January is not a mini calendar. And then October, I did all my chores as a part of my weekly spreads. Mini calendars I did in December. I never did fill in the numbers on most of the mini calendars. I do have to admit that. I didn't fill them in. It was just kind of one of those, I have the numbers on one of the months. That's good enough. And then this little section here on the right, to the right of my dailies, is my weekly chores. Underneath of the weekly chores, I keep words. Underneath of the weekly chores, there's admin, compost, vacuum, sweep, laundry, and clean the chicken coop. In the wintertime, I don't need to clean the chicken coop every week, but I do need to make sure that I'm putting fresh straw in frequently, because clean straw keeps your chickens warmer than dirty straw. Although that does remind me here in a couple of days I am going to have to clean that poor coop out. Ugh. Least favorite part, because one of my chickens just absolutely loves giving me sass. And I'm like, are you trying to be first into the crock pot, my dear? Are you? Don't get me wrong, I love that little chicken to pieces, but her end fate shall be tasty with rosemary, butter, and lemon. Now, I don't overly decorate this page, I don't think, but there may or may not be some dots added after I get done adding these two little calendars down here on the bottom. Now, these two little calendars are my writing tracker. Writing, as in W-R-I-T-I-N-G, not bike riding. I know my accent sometimes gets me in trouble when I try to say certain words. Writing is one of them, because it sounds like writing. With a D. Writing with a D, not writing with a T. That might be the Midwest in me coming out. I don't know for certain. But there are two projects that I am currently working on. And these are the only trackers where I actually have a key, which you can see to the right-hand side of the little mini calendars. And with this being a dot grid, or if it was a graph, I actually have a little bit of freedom with the variety that I can do as a symbol on the day. There's one slash in one direction is less than 250 words. A full X is 250. Slash in the opposite direction is edited or brainstormed. A filled-in triangle on one side or to one corner is 500. Filled-in triangle to the opposite corner is 750. A filled-in square is 1K words. Oh, I haven't had very many of those days, but when I have them, they're nice. They're very nice. And then a circle means nope. And why include a writing tracker? Well, writing is a hobby. That's the other hobby I was forgetting. It's still a hobby for me. It's not something that I ever expect to turn into anything. But I'm still having fun working on telling the stories. And, why not? Your bullet journal is meant to help you keep track of things. And if I'm using it to help me keep track of my creative stuff, and it let myself know that, hey, we should probably talk to our muse and see if we can't bribe her to work on this project over here that we really, really love, then the bribing shall commence. Mostly just due to the fact that, I enjoy working on my writing projects, very much so. Now, right here, I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup. There's the staging of a few things because I'm getting ready to make a page that is kind of important. I was missing having a bigger space versus the small space that I allowed myself in the weekly spreads that I set up in November and December. And you'll note here I'm going in and I'm tracing out my weeks because I realized I needed that. I need that week separation in my big trackers like the weather and other whatnot. So we're not quite getting into my days and weeks just yet. But a part of something that you guys need to be aware of is that I only decorate the first, I think I told you guys at the beginning of the video, it's been a little bit. I only decorated the first 2 days in the journal. The rest of the days I decorated off camera. They're not going to be a part of the flip through, just because I wanted to take my time and I wanted to be able to sit back in my chair because my back was killing me by the time I got to this point. And you will note that there is a lot of decoration going into them. And they take up half the page. Mostly because I wanted to give myself more space in January. January has sometimes a lot of things happen in a day. And other days, barely anything happens. But on other days, a lot of times I'm usually working on So I'll write that down. The little hand thing is me thinking. You guys will probably see me do that frequently in a lot of my videos. I'm trying to decide what I want to do here. And the main reason why I've got this pad of paper here is to act as a glue backing. Now, this page that I'm getting ready to start working on is for the partial half week that is the beginning of January. So what's going to happen on January 1st or December 31st is all of the weekly things that I didn't get finished in the first part of the week, in the last week of December, last week of December, first week of the year, combo week that's there. I'll roll over everything that hasn't gotten done yet into that page. From there, I've got the first 4 days, and they've got their own page, and then I have another week of the week of the 5th / the 11th is a full page in the B5 instead of a small section. I'm finding that the really small section for my weeklies was not what I needed. And it got in the way a little bit of getting a few things done, but not to the extent that things were completely neglected. And that's the bullet journal process for you, is learning lessons in the first week or the first month, carrying those lessons over into the next month. It's okay to admit and adapt your bullet journal as you go. And it kind of really feels like some in the bullet journal community forget that it's supposed to be this adaptive process. And like I told you guys in the long-term collections journal video, I don't create my bullet journal for social media. I make my bullet journal for what I need, and then I share it with you guys so that you guys can see what it looks like when someone doesn't care what the trends are. I realize that may not make me a very popular person on YouTube because everybody likes the greatest, latest, next thing. It's okay not to want to take part in trends because the trend is taking up time that makes no sense to you. Which may or may not mean that I am autistically coded. I have no idea. The day I get a diagnosis is probably going to be the day that I end up looking at the person and going, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. But here we've got the first of the 2 days. And it is at this point that I, down here in the corner, am going to go ahead and leave you to the last minute or so of this video. And I do think I did a flip through, but I'm not sure. Either way, thank you so much for sharing your time with me today, crew. I appreciate it. I love seeing you guys here. And always understand, always remember that Evelyn here at Crane's Hearth is always rooting for you. May your holiday season be one filled with love and warmth and memories that you will carry with you for the rest of your life. Hug your loved ones tight, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video, which will not be until January 6th, and that's my reading journal video. Bye for now.